All right, so in this first video here, we're going to go over again the steps to graphing a parabola, and then we're going to actually get into some graphing of the parabolas. Okay? So the first thing you need to decide is what is the direction of opening. Now again, you should be taking down notes about this, and you should be doing the examples along with me as I go through them on this video so that you're ready to go for class on Monday, Tuesday. Okay? So the first thing you need to decide is the direction of opening. What you're going to look at is you're going to look at one of two things. You're going to look first at which variable is squared, and then you're going to look at which variable or what the coefficient on the non-squared variable is. So in this first example, x is squared. We have a positive coefficient on the non-squared term, so that's going to open up. On the second one, x is squared here, and we have a negative value on the y term, which is not squared, so that's going to open down. On the third one, we have, oops, that didn't do so well. We have a y is squared with a positive coefficient on x, opens to the right. And the last one, y is squared with a negative coefficient that opens to the left. So looking for two things there. First thing you're looking for is what is squared. Second thing you're looking for is the positivity of the non-squared coefficient. Okay. Next, we're going to find the vertex. Okay. Our next step is we find the vertex, and we think oppositely. Okay, because our formulas, our general formulas, or our standard formulas, if you will, are going to be x minus h quantity squared is equal to plus or minus 4p times y minus k. And then our other one is going to be y minus k quantity squared is equal to plus or minus 4p times the quantity x minus h. Again, thinking opposite because those are both going to be inside a set of parentheses. And if we don't see something after one of the variables, then that is 0. Third thing we're going to do then is we are going to find the value of p. Now 4p is going to be the number, or it's going to be equal to the number in front of the non-squared variable. So that is right here or right there. Okay, that's the 4p value. It's the coefficient on the non-squared variable. So we're going to divide that. It could be positive, it could be negative, but for us, we only care about the positive because it's a distance. So we're just going to do the positive now. And that p, divide both sides by 4, and p is going to give us the distance from the vertex to the focus, and p is also going to give us the distance from the vertex to the directrix. Okay? So that 4p number comes into play again in our next step. In our next step, that is going to give us the width of our parabola through the focus. Okay. So far up through these first 4 steps, we found which way it opens, then we found where the vertex is, then because we found p, we found where the focus is, we found where the directrix is, and then in step number 4, we find how wide our parabola goes. And last but not least, we find our axis of symmetry, which is going to be perpendicular to the directrix. Okay? Side note, if I'm going too fast for you, remember that you can always pause, rewind, and re-listen to this wonderful, wonderful message. Okay? So So let's put this to work now, and let's go and graph this equation. So we've got y squared equals 20x. Okay? So that is the equation that I want to graph. I want to answer all of my questions. Okay? So my first step is, which way does it open? That was our first step. So because I am squaring y, and because, so the y squared part tells me that it opens left or right. The positive 20 part tells me that it opens to the right. Okay? So that tells me that it opens to the right. Okay? So I'm that's going to come into play in these next few. Okay? For my vertex, I'm going to look at the numbers that come added or subtracted after the variables. There's none there, so my vertex is going to be at the origin. So for me, I then go put a V right on my graph where that is. Now for you, you might not have graph paper with you right now, but what you can do is you can just make a sketch in your notes with all of this stuff. Okay? Now, in order to find the focus, I'm going to have to do a little extra work. So my extra work is going to be, I am going to find where the focus is. So I'm going to say that 4p here is equal to this number in front of my square, or my non-squared term. So 4p is 20, which means that p is 5. So the distance from my vertex, which is at the origin, to my focus is 5, and that goes with, because remember the focus is inside the parabola, so that goes with the direction of opening. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and right there is my focus. So that's going to be at the point 5, 0. Now I go 5 in the opposite direction, and that's going to get me to my directrix. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is my directrix. Okay. My directrix is is a line, and that line is going to be x equals -5. That 4p number also tells me the width of my parabola through the focus. So the width of my parabola is 20. There's that number right there. So that means that I'm going to go 10, in this case, that is 10 up and 10 down. I need to take that number, divide it by 2, and I go up that many, and I go down that many through the focus. So that if I would dash this line, which it wouldn't necessarily be there, okay, but I went right through the focus. Okay. That now then allows me to draw in my parabola, goes through the vertex, curves up, curves out, down through the vertex, and curves out. Okay? Probably missed the bottom there. Yep, see, I missed the bottom. Okay? Right? And that only leaves me my axis of symmetry. My axis of symmetry is the line that runs through the vertex right there and through the focus right there. And that gives me the line here. Now that's a horizontal line, y equals 0. Okay. Let's try another one. So here now we've got x squared equals 16 times the quantity y plus 3. The first thing that we need to decide is the direction of the opening. So my squared term is on my x, or my x is the squared term, I should say, and my coefficient here is positive. So therefore, this is going to open up. Okay, my parabola in this case is going to open up. My vertex, I'm going to think oppositely of this number and that number. So that's going to give me a vertex at -2, -3. So -2, -3, there is my vertex. Then now I calculate my 4p value. That's going to equal 16. So p is going to equal 4. So my focus is going to be 4 up from the vertex. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So right there is going to be my focus, which is at the point -2, +1. My directrix is going to be 4 down. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is my directrix. That is going to be a horizontal line, y equals -7. That 4p value is also going to give me the width of my parabola. So my width is 16. So in this case, that is 8 left and 8 right. Through the focus, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's where my parabola goes through. Now I can draw it in. I'll stop it right there so I don't go over the top of my other writing. Okay, so there is my parabola. Now the only thing I have left is my axis of symmetry. My axis of symmetry is the line that runs through my focus and my vertex. That's a vertical line at -2. So my axis of symmetry is x equals -2. Now, the next step on this is we are going to work ourselves backwards. We're going to give you a couple of pieces of information, and we want to make an equation in standard form of this given parabola. Now, the way that we go about doing this is we draw ourselves a little sketch of what we have. Okay? So we've got the fact that the vertex is at the point 2, -3. So there's my vertex. The only part that tells me is where the vertex is. I still can open left, right, up, down. All is good there. Okay? Next, it tells me that the directrix is at y equals -6. Well, that's a horizontal line down here. Okay? So that tells me now, between the two of those, that this is an up opening parabola, because the parabola goes away from the directrix. So this parabola has got to go away from the directrix so it looks like that. Okay? What also is told from me in that is the fact that this distance here, my P distance, is 3. Okay? Because if I went over 2 and down 3, oops, that's going to all come together. Of course, it's all going to come together. So we'll just go through and we'll just rearrange it, and boom, there it is, down 3. So there's where my vertex is, and I had to go down 6 to get here. So 4, 5, and 6 there. So that distance is 3. Okay? Which is important because then 4P is going to equal 4 times 3, which is 12. Since it's opening up, that 12 is going to stay positive. Now, because it opens up, my parabola's general form is going to be x minus h, quantity squared, is equal to positive 4p times the quantity y minus k. I have everything that I need for this. I have, red, I have h here, I have k there, and I've got 4p right there. So I can go just from those two pieces of information, I can go right to my equation. And my equation is going to be x minus 2, because it's x minus h, quantity squared, equals positive 12 times the quantity y minus negative 3. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my equation for that parabola given that scenario. Thus ends video number 1.